Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the studies. Yesterday, what we were studying was how the but we were studying about our past, how people used to live along the bank of Narmada, and at that time people were primarily hunter and gatherer. Then slowly and slowly, what happened that changes took place, and these people who were used to be hunter and gatherer became farmer. They started growing crops, and it happened near the Suleiman and Kirtar hills. Then we also find that Garo hills and in the Vindhya region also people were used to uh, mm, grow different type of crops, and the region of India was famous for the uh, production of rice. Now, after that, we studied that how around 4,700 years ago from today, that means 2700 BC. In 2700 BC, the first cities, the first cities were started to um, grow, and this happened near the Indus River and its tributaries. And then around mm, 500 BC, what happened that in the plains of Ganga, a new civilization started, and in this way, what we find that how the life of the people were changing, and in the north of Ganga, what happened that in the south of Ganga, a very big kingdom was started to grow, and that kingdom was known as Magadha. And in all other parts of the country, we also see this type of kingdoms were set up. And then what we were studying that how people used to move from one place to another. There were various reasons for the movement of the people moved because of they were in search of livelihood. Then many times they have to escape from natural disasters like flood and drought. And traders also used to move from one place to another. Merchants were there who moved, and then religious teachers. Then some adventurous people were also there who moved from one place to another. Now, I have told you earlier that this is the map. In this map, what we find that India is the prominent country, and but this is the map of not only India. This is the map of Indian subcontinent. I told you yesterday also, and this must be clear to you that the Indian subcontinent is that part of Asia which is surrounded by different geographical features. For example, in the north there is Himalayas. Okay, in the north there is Himalayas. Then in the eastern side there is Bay of Bengal. In the southern part there is Indian Ocean, and in the western part there is Arabian Sea. So in this way, we see that the whole this region in which India is one of the most important country. Other than India, there is Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and here Maldives. All these countries come under Indian subcontinent, and this area is surrounded by such geographical features that this area becomes uh, cut off from other parts of the world, and this is called Indian subcontinent. So what we find that just now, I told you that people used to move from one place to another, and there were various reasons for this movement. Now, what we see that the movement of people was not easy, because in the north there was Himalayas, then in the east, south, and western side there were uh, sea and ocean, so it was not easy for people to move from one place to another. Still, what we find that people used to move from one place to another. People used to cross these frontiers, these obstructions were crossed by the people. They crossed the mountains, they crossed the seas, and people from other parts came to the subcontinent, Indian subcontinent, and not only came here but they settled here. And in this way, what happened that in the civics, what you have studied that India is a country of diverse religion. India is a country of diverse languages, diverse culture. Uh, India is a country of diversity, and the root of this diversity lies in this only, because people from distant places, people crossed the obstructions of mountain and seas and reached the Indian subcontinent. And when they reached here, they used to settle here. And in this way, what happened that the cultural tradition of this region became very diverse, because people from different places, from distant places, used to stay here together. So in this way, our country become a country of diversity. So people have shared new ways of carving stone, composing music, and even cooking food over several hundreds of years. So when new people arrived from new places, what they bring with them, they bring new ways of doing things. For example, at that time, stone was the main item, and from this stone, people used to make different kinds of tools, and from this stone, people used to make different kinds of utensil. So, when new people came from new places, they bring with them new ways of carving stone, and they also bring with them new new form of music, new way of composing music, and new type of food were also brought by them. So in this way, what we find that the India became a country of diversity. So, in this way, if you can relate all the subjects of SST, then what happened that you will be able to understand more. So it should be your effort to think in that way, that all the subjects are interdependent to each other. We don't study any subject in vacuum, because everything is connected to other things. So in this way, if you connect all these things together, then your capacity of comprehension will increase. Okay, so try to find out this interdependence among different subjects. Okay, Now, what we see that India is a country which has various names. For example, Bharat, India, these are the names of our country. And in this, what we find that the word India comes from the Indus, the river, we have seen the location of the Indus. So, Indus is a river which is called Sindhu. In Sanskrit, this word is called Sindhu. And what happened that just now I told you that people from distant places came to India, and in this context, we can say that people belonging to Iran and Greeks, they came through the northwest about 2500 years ago. It means in around 500 BC, people from Iran, people from Greek came to India through the northwest. In this context, I will tell you that. Where you can see Iran, the location of Iran. It is you can see in the map. It is India. Then the neighbor of India is Pakistan. Then the Pakistan neighbor of Pakistan is Afghanistan, and after Afghanistan, what we find there, Iran, and Greece is also there. It is at the border of Europe and Asia. It is a European country, but it is located at the border of Europe and Asia. So, what we find that people from Iran and Greece came to India through this northwestern part. Okay, and what they started to say that the area which is lying on the eastern side of Indus, that area they started to call that area Hindus, okay, or Indos, and from this the name India has been derived. Okay, the Iranians and the Greeks who came to the northwest about 2500 years ago were familiar with the Indus and called it Hindus or the Indos, and the land to the east of the river was called India. So, Indus was called Hindus or Indos by the Greeks and Iranian, and the land which was lying in the eastern side of the river was called India. And how our country got the name Bharat, it is also the name was used for a group of people who lived in the northwest and who are mentioned in the Rig Veda. Rig Veda is the earliest composition, earliest book which is written in Sanskrit. So Rig Veda is the earliest composition in Sanskrit. It in this Rig Veda we find the mention of Bharat, and this Bharat was a dynasty. It was a group of people who used to live in the northwestern part of India, and later this Bharat, which was the name of a group, the name of a dynasty that came to be used for the whole country. Okay. Now, this is these are the information you got from this book. Now, this chapter. Now we will discuss the various various sources through which we can know about our past. Okay, so there are several ways through which we can find out about the past. One of such ways is to read books that were written long ago, the original books. We are not talking about the books which we can purchase from the bookshop or which we can take from the library, but we are talking about those books which are original, which are written long ago. and in those books we find the description of the life of the people at that time, what kind of life people used to live at that time. All these descriptions are found in those books, and one such book are called manuscripts. It means written by hand, because manu is a Latin word. Okay. Manu is a Latin word which means hand, and a script means written material are called a script. So handwritten books are called manuscript. People used to write these manuscript on palm leaf, and many times they also written on uh, bark of a tree, which were known as barch. And this tree used to grow in the Himalayas. So these handwritten books, which we call manuscripts, are the rich source of our knowledge about the past. They provide us so many knowledge about the past. Over the years, many manuscripts were eaten away by insects. Some were destroyed, but many have survived, often preserved in temples and monasteries. So, what we find that these manuscripts are written on palm leaf or bark, and these palm leaf and bark, they are not preserved properly. Many of the manuscripts have been eaten by insects in the leaf, and um, uh, Barch, what we find that insects are originated in these surfaces, and they used to eat all the leaf and bark. And but as it's not like that, that all the manuscripts have been eaten by the insects. Actually, many of them are preserved there in the temples or in monasteries. Okay. Monasteries are the places where Buddhist monks used to live. Okay. So these are the places where we can find monastery, where we can find manuscripts which are kept there in a preserved form. Okay. These books dealt with all kind of subjects. In these books, what we find that all kind of subjects are discussed. For example, religious beliefs and practices. What should be the religious practices? What religious beliefs were famous, were prominent at that time? The lives of the king, medicine and science. Besides, there were also epics, poems, plays, and in this way, we find that there were variety of subjects on which these books were written, and most of the books were written in Sanskrit, but some are written in Prakrit and Tamil also. Okay. Now, other than manuscript, there are other sources also through which we can know about our past. One of such sources, inscriptions. And inscriptions are they are also writing, but there is the main difference between a manuscript and an inscription is that manuscript is written on soft surface such as palm leaf, and inscriptions are written on hard surface such as stone or metal. And as manuscript, as in the case of manuscript, the surface is soft, so people used to write with their hand, because they have to write on the soft surface. But when we are talking about inscriptions, what we find that they were written on hard surfaces like stone and metal, and it was not possible for anyone to write with his or her hand on that stone or metal. So in they used to they used some tools in order to write on the stone or metals. Okay, so these are the differences between inscriptions and manuscripts. Then what we find that sometimes kings got their orders inscribed so that people could see, read, and obey them. Suppose at that time there were no newspaper, no television, nothing was there. Suppose if the king wants to um, mm, order something to its subjects, then how will he order them? What was the way of making people aware of the order of the king? What happened that one of the ways adopted by the king to let people know about their orders was that he used to inscribe his orders, and in this way people were able to see, read, and obey the order of the king. Okay, then what we find, there are other kinds of inscriptions as well, where men and women recorded what they did. For example, kings often kept records of victories in battle. So one type of inscription is there in which the kings are got the kings got their orders inscribed. Okay, and the other kind of inscriptions are there in which people recorded what they did. Their suppose in present day we used to write diaries, in which we write daily diaries, in which we write our what we did on on a particular day. Account of every day is written on the in the diary. In the same way, there were people uh, who recorded in the inscription what they did, and mostly what happened that kings often kept records of victories in battle. The main function of the king was to fight battle, and it was a very it was a great matter of pride for the king to be victorious in these battles, and it was the desire of the king that all should know about his victories in battle. So what he did, that he used to inscribed these record of victories in battle, so that the coming generation should also know about the his victories. Okay. Now, what we see that in case of manuscripts, many manuscripts were eaten by insects because of the soft surface. In the palm leaf, what happens that the insects originate because of moisture, and these insects used to eat the whole manuscripts, and the people have to find a way to preserve these manuscripts. But in case of inscriptions, what we find that as they are written on the hard surface such as a stone and metal, so it cannot be easily destroyed. Insects were not able to eat it, so it can be preserved for a long time. It can be preserved in a much better way than the manuscript. So these are the differences, and but difficulties were also there because it was easy to carry manuscript. It can be moved from one place to another. A person can take it and carry it from one place to another, but inscriptions are very hard, and they were not people were not able to carry it from one place to another. It used to be inscribed permanently on a pillar or anything like that. So there were many other things that were made and used in the past. Those who study these objects are called archaeologists. So now the third source through which we can know about our past is the archaeologist. Archaeologists are the people who study uh, those things that were made and used in the past. Okay, so archaeologists are the people who used to study those things, those objects which were made and used in the past. They study the remains of buildings, the buildings which used to be there in the past. Now, what happened that the building is not uh, at present. The building is not in its original form, but actually, what we find that it is only remained a very few part is still there, and thus these remains of building and then paintings and sculpture, all these are studied by the archaeologist, and by the study of these remains of buildings, paintings and sculpture, they used to come to a conclusion. They used to know about the people who lived long ago and who used all these objects. They also explore and excavate to find tools, weapons, pots, pans, ornaments, and coins. So, the main important function of archaeologists is to excavate. What is the meaning of excavate? Excavate means digging. When we dig under the surface of the earth, that is called excavation. And archaeologists excavate. Why do they excavate? They excavate in order to find those objects which were used by people long ago. Because what happens that whenever just say we have studied about the earliest cities which came into existence on the region of Indus River, on the bank of Indus River, around 2700 BC. Those that civilization, when that civilization came to an end, what happened that a new civilization started uh, mm, after many years. So what happened that the earliest civilization went down. It became the first layer. Then the new civilization uh, was started at the upper level. Then again, uh, that is also that civilization which was started at the upper level, that also comes to an end. And then what happens that the new civilization starts above that level. In this way, what happens when the archaeologists dig under the surface of the earth, what they find different types of objects which people used in the past, because under the surface of the earth there are remains of the objects. There are remains of the civilization which used to exist in the past. So, in this way, the archaeologists find many objects, and what happens that many times these objects are made of stone or bone and baked clay or metal. if the objects are made of stone or bone or baked clay or metal, then what happened that they are there, present there, and not in the complete form. They will be in the form of broken, but still, as they are made of strong material such as stone or bone or metal, then they will be there. And these objects that are made of hard imperishable substance usually survive for a long time, and these type of objects which are made of hard substances are very much useful for the archaeologist in order to know about the past. So today we will uh, stop our study here only, and from tomorrow we will discuss the further parts of the chapter.